We've heard it every single year for the last decade. This is the year of the Linux desktop. Usually it's just hype, but overall I think it's more about momentum. Just like other years, 2025 was packed with different advancements in Linux that contributed to this momentum. Has desktop Linux actually improved this year, making adoption easier, or are we still stuck with the usual problems? I'm Oscar, the super user, and today we're doing a reality check. Let's look at why 2025 has been a key year for Linux adoption and what I think will happen in 2026. The hard numbers. Let's get analytical. For years, Linux hovered between the 2 or 3% mark of worldwide desktop share, but things have been changing slowly, with various sources reporting that this number has grown considerably this year. Of course, these numbers must be taken with a pinch of salt. They are not entirely accurate, but we have the Steam hardware survey reporting we have 3.2% of Steam users using Linux, up from the 2.29% we had in December of 2024, while StatCounter shows volatility around 3 and 5% globally, with the US peaking over 5%, capturing the wider desktop aside from gaming. These trends signal real growth from Steam Deck sales, better distros, and Windows fatigue. Again, no perfect metric exists, but the upward trajectory is undeniable. Overall, these percentages still sound small, right? But in software, they represent a few millions of users. It's the difference between a developer saying, "Why bother with Linux?" and "Okay, we can't afford to ignore these people anymore." This critical mass is why you started seeing more native Linux download buttons over the last years. It's the reason why big companies such as Canva are planning to provide their software for Linux. In this case, the Affinity Suite is being seriously considered to be ported over. Linux isn't invisible anymore. Of course, the big players such as Adobe with their own creative tools and Microsoft with their Microsoft Office are still largely absent, but as more pressure from the consumer base increases, more software companies jump on board the Linux bandwagon. Desktop experience. The major Linux desktops have also seen very important advances this year. For a long time, Linux desktops have always looked bare and Spartan. For certain power users, XFCE and window managers such as i3 or Hyperland have always been great options, but the casual user needs eye candy and usability to operate on their computers. I include myself too. But in the past years, GNOME and KDE Plasma, which are the main two desktop environment options, have received some really killer updates that make the Linux desktop better than ever and feel more premium. In 2025 in particular, KDE Plasma 6.5 was massive. We finally, after literally years of the community requesting it, got proper rounded window corners. It sounds small, but it makes the desktop look modern and adapt to current aesthetic tastes. We also got automatic day and night theme switching that actually syncs your wallpaper, so no more manual toggles or hacky scripts. And for gamers, Plasma 6.5 added Wayland overlay planes, which slashes CPU usage during full-screen gaming, so should provide more performance overall. On the GNOME side, which I am a fan of, versions 48 and 49 brought the polish. We got experimental HDR support and a new well-being panel, which is great if you want your computer to tell you how many hours you spend on YouTube. I don't judge, I'm pretty much all day on the PC. The big takeaway? Both of these environments are aggressively moving to Wayland. GNOME 49 initially made preparations to remove the X11 session, but now is planned for GNOME 50. It's bold, but it's the future. So much so that we saw the release of a desktop environment that is straight up Wayland from the beginning, System 76's Cosmic. It still needs a lot of polish, but it is aiming to stand alongside the other major Linux desktops and will be shipped on commercial computers in 2026, sold by the company. So Linux gets better every year, but that's only half the story. The other half is that Windows got creepier. The recall situation. Let's rewind to May 2024, the moment Microsoft lit the fuse. They announced recall an AI feature that screenshots everything you do every 30 seconds and stores it and lets Copilot search your entire digital life. They called it your personal memory, and the internet called it creepy surveillance. Privacy experts dug deep into how it works, and security researchers proved it stored data unencrypted, and hackers could dump your web history, bank logins, or private messages. Microsoft walked it back within days, promising encryption. But the April 2025 secure re-release is now opt-in, fortunately, although who knows for how long. The damage is irreparable. People realized my operating system is designed to watch me, not work for me. And that trust is gone. And once it's gone, you start looking for alternatives. That has been the biggest driver of 2025. It wasn't Linux pulling people in with improvements. It was Windows pushing them out with paranoia. We also saw the end of life of Windows 10, a much beloved operating system which worked excellently and is now fully replaced by Windows 11. Many people refuse to upgrade and are left with staying on an unsupported and dying OS or finding an alternative. That is why we have seen huge increases in distribution downloads reported by Buzzite and Zorin OS from Windows systems this year. So overall, application compatibility has improved on Linux. Proton keeps showing that gaming works. Plasma 6.5 and GNOME 49 prove desktops are beautiful and usable. But Linux still has its share of problems that make adoption difficult. The usual hiccups. Linux is a very fragmented environment with many different operating systems and desktop environments with different ways of working, and that really complicates adoption. I constantly get asked about which Linux distro to start using, and it is really complicated to give a proper answer without knowing exactly who is behind the computer and how they are going to use it. We also have compatibility problems with software and hardware, with NVIDIA cards being a bit tricky to get working, and the lack of major commercial software such as Adobe, AutoCAD, and Microsoft Office. So adoption mainly relies on how patient the user is in finding alternatives, in weighing if learning new tools and workflows is worth it to escape Windows. The part about software and hardware compatibility can, and I believe will, get better over time. But the part of fragmentation, however, will mainly stay the same because of Linux's nature. The only possibility I find here is that a single Linux distribution turns extremely commercial and becomes the main face for adoption and support, kind of like how Ubuntu was that for a time. There is one Linux OS that a lot of people are actually waiting for, though. What's coming in 2026? 2026 will be interesting for Linux because Valve is planning on releasing their new Steam hardware, which includes the all-new Steam controller, Steam Frame, their new virtual reality headset, and Steam Machine. These products will be completely compatible with Linux and using their own Linux distribution, SteamOS. We have had the chance of using SteamOS already for a few years because it ships on the Steam Deck, and a lot of people have seen how good Linux can be for gaming and normal desktop use. With the release of the Steam Machine, basically a compact desktop computer for the living room, I expect Valve to expand desktop support and maybe even release SteamOS to be installed on other systems, which is what a lot of people are waiting for. Valve has tried releasing the Steam Machine in the past, which was quite a failure overall, but this time it seems different because now they have the software and the experience of the Steam Deck to back them up. We still need to see what price the Steam Machine will have, and that will be an important point to consider for its success. But if it is anything similar to the Steam Deck, it can be quite a boon for Linux desktop. Additionally, the major Linux desktops will continue adding features, maturing HDR, Wayland, and color accuracy support at a faster rate than ever, since both GNOME and Plasma are planning on completely removing X11 code from their DEs. The momentum continues snowballing, and we might be at the verge of an avalanche. So 2025 was not a revolution, but it brought better desktops, stronger gaming support, and Windows distrust pushed more users to Linux. In 2026, expect Wayland first polish, wider Proton compatibility, and Valve's Steam hardware and SteamOS to lower adoption friction. I know that it seems everyone has a crystal ball nowadays, but predictions are fun. If you want to share yours, please do so in the comments. I'd love to read them. And since this is the last video of the year, I'd like to wish you all a Merry Christmas holiday and Happy New Year. And just like Linux, in these festive days where we sometimes get a bit too merry, it's always good to remember that with great power comes great responsibility.